Springtime in Columbus. Azaleas are blooming and the scent of jasmine fills the air in these neighborhoods where many people who are in the twilight of their years live. Many are widows of the town's old-line business leaders. Any other year in this season, it's a walk in the springtime air or an evening tea party for the wealthy elderly women. But not this spring. The women here are prey for the stocking strangler, the killer who rapes his victims and strangles them with a stocking. The murders have sent a deadly chill through this city on the banks of the Chattahoochee. The strangler's last victim was a 61-year-old grade school teacher, Janet Cofer. At the weekly senior citizens luncheon, the main discussion was the strangler and the fear that now dominate the lives of people who ordinarily don't worry about being sexually assaulted and murdered. Before the strangler, that category was grimly reserved for younger women.
But we have no idea who it is, we have no idea of their color, and we're not trying to believe it's white or believe it's black. We just want the fiend or fiends caught and properly punished. I feel sorry for them, even though they've done horrible damage to so many people. But it's just one of those things that we're having to learn to live with.
And anytime we hear a noise or a sound, if we're awake in the night, and I'm sure that many of us have had nightmares we never would have had if it hadn't been for this situation.
I moved up here for protection. I lived out in the country away from anyone. So I moved up here 11 years ago to be protected. And this has happened. Maybe I was safer where I was.
Janet Cofer was beloved by her third-grade students. She sang in her church choir for many years. This week, there was a prayer meeting at Mrs. Cofer's church, the Winton United Methodist Church. Members and city officials prayed that the strangler would be captured soon. That service has now spread to other churches across the city. Services are being held in the afternoon so that people can get inside before dark. Hundreds of Columbus residents have offered to open their homes to elderly women in an effort to end the slayings here, but officials say few women are taking advantage of the offer. They say most don't want to leave their homes. However, about 120 have been relocated by civic and municipal agencies. All the past victims lived alone. Officials say the women feel they haven't done anything wrong, and why should they move? Police say many actually don't sense the real danger in the matter. Along with the elements of fear, apprehension, and suspicion sweeping the city, there's also the police department, frustrated by a killer they have labeled as cunning and careful not to leave clues. Columbus Police Officer David Hopkins is the information officer for the department and is stationed in offices with a 30-man task force formed to catch the stocking strangler.
We analyze the evidence that we've gathered at each scene a little more fully, and we feel that we're moving closer. Unfortunately, we don't have a suspect. We would love to have a face to be able to put a name to and then pick him up and bring him in, but that's just not the way it is, unfortunately.
For more than 6 months, the Winton area was the target area for the strangler. It was also the same area for investigators in their efforts to catch the killer. But last week, the killer changed neighborhoods, further frustrating investigators and putting more fear into the hearts and minds of potential victims. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News in the Winton section of Columbus, Georgia. During the last hours of her life, 61-year-old Janet Cofer taught her third-grade class and baked some muffins for a next-door neighbor. She was last seen driving into her carport at 9 p.m. last Wednesday night. The next morning, her students waited. They were not told she'd become the 7th victim of the Columbus strangler. Her body had been discovered by a Columbus school policeman who checked to see why she had not come to school.
Agent Cook, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. I'm working with the task force, and we're going to need to talk with you about some information that you may possibly have. We understand that you were in the area, Steam Mill Road, on the day that the stranglings took place, and we just need to talk with you at your convenience about anything that you may have seen or you may know about these things.
For 180 days, these people have been trying to catch the man responsible for the wave of strangulation death that have swept this city since September. 30 men and women work in this task force. Their mission, to catch the strangler and end the killings. But the killer strikes when he chooses. He's smart, and after talking with 5,000 people and compiling thousands of index cards with possible leads, police have not come up with any concrete leads in their search. David Hopkins is spokesman for the task force, and he says the strangler makes no mistakes.
Norman, the only commonality we can find in the 7 stranglings was each was white, each lived alone, and each was over 50. People have been trying to put together all kinds of theories. There was a theory that they all shopped at the same grocery store, and we found that 3 of them may have shopped at the same grocery store. There is another commonality which is very insignificant. Each one of them wore glasses. But at this age bracket, virtually everybody wears glasses at least part of the time, so we don't feel that there's any significance in that. The only commonality would be their age, their race, and the fact that each lived alone. This particular individual is smart, and he works very hard to avoid detection, to avoid leaving clues. So it makes our job extremely difficult because he is very smart, very intelligent.
When you say he's very smart and very intelligent, what prompts you to say this?
Well, I can't go into too much detail. Just the fact that he avoids leaving clues, and some of the ways he avoids leaving clues, the way he avoids detection indicates that he's pretty smart.
Have you found any fingerprints?
No comment.
Does the person clean up the crime scene before he leaves?
No comment.
Even though task force members have interviewed more than 5,000 people and they have the latest scientific equipment available to them, they still have not been able to capture the strangler. And now they hope he'll make a mistake. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News, Columbus, Georgia.
Could be that.
She swerved over to the side to miss the motorcycle and run up on the curb and hit the pole. And she was injured and was unable to give us any information right now.
How bad was she injured, could you tell?
Paramedics said possibly internal injuries. That's all I can say right now.
The Atlanta Highway intersection with Montgomery's Eastern Bypass ranks as the 10th most accident-prone location in the state. The Public Safety Department reports 64 mishaps there in 1977, well below the state leader, Mobile's I-65 at Airport Boulevard, which reported 147 accidents last year. But the Atlanta Highway Southern Bypass intersection here could get worse before an overpass now under construction allows things to get better. Detours and changing traffic patterns to route motorists around various phases of construction will lead to the potential for more accidents unless every driver approaches it with safety in mind. Meanwhile, safety versus speed is on the minds of federal officials. Regional U.S. Department of Transportation Administrator Stanley Kessling says in Montgomery, Congress is anxious for continued enforcement of speed limits. In question particularly is a 55 miles per hour highway speed limit, where a spot check this morning showed some drivers exceeding the posted limit. But it was along the 40 miles per hour portion of the southern bypass today where our camera and van were passed repeatedly by motorists exceeding the posted limit. Police and state troopers are stepping up radar checks, but officials continue to point out it's not to make money on tickets, it's to protect the public from injury or death. Dick Bird, WSFA TV News, reporting.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to WSFA TV News. I'm Donna Dodger, announcer. The highlights of today's news are Syrian troops fire into neighborhood, Lance on Carter poles, and the senior class activities at Georgia Washington. We'll have today's news after a word from our sponsors.
Women all over the world use olive oil. Here's what some of them have to say.
Olive oil makes my skin feel so soft and smooth.
In the United States,
I love the way olive oil makes my skin feel soft and smooth.
women all trust olive oil. Why don't you let it help your skin today?
Now with the international news, Carmen Ghostin.
Syrian troops fired rockets and cannons into a crowded Christian neighborhood trying to stop fighting between Christians and Muslims that has caused 35 deaths in 4 days. Residents of the adjacent Muslim district said Syrians were not trying to fire their way, but they were receiving some firing from the Christians.
Well, simply because Channel 12 I thought was the best.
Well, we appreciate that. How long have you been doing this, and why are you doing it? That might be a better question.
Okay, this is my 3rd year doing it at Georgia Washington, but I thought it would give the kids incentive to study more, to read the paper, to do something different than lecture or take tests all the time.
Mm-hmm. What kind of topics do you cover in your newscasts?
Okay, we get international, national news, local news, and mostly around Georgia Washington sports from all junior high schools and some high schools, maybe 1 or 2 national sports or major league sports.
Pam Hood will bring us the national news.
Lance on Carter polls. Former White House Budget Director Burt Lance told an Atlanta group today that President Carter's popularity has declined because many Americans feel he has failed to keep a campaign promise to reduce the size of government. Muriel Humphrey, appointed to the United States Senate last February to succeed her late husband, Senator Hubert Humphrey, announced Saturday night she would not seek election to her husband's senatorial seat.
Here's Lisa Perdue with the local news.
Senior class activities. The Georgia Washington students are raising money for their senior prom and graduation day where honors will be presented. We need about $2,000 and we now have $1,031.95. The graduation day is May 19th and the prom will be held May 13th. There are many fundraising projects going on now. Tryouts. The Georgia Washington B team and varsity cheerleader tryouts have already been held. The drill team tryouts are today at 3 o'clock. The softball team has already tried out and are ready for their new season. The track team has already tried out and they have already held their first meet. Strength workshop was held this past summer in Montgomery County. There's a test given and the highest test scores were given by the Georgia Washington students.
For today's sports, here's Minnie Grider.
Jeff Davis golf team won a 308-315 victory over Prattville.
The Vols are now 6-1 overall, while Prattville falls to 7-4. Both schools will compete in the Southeastern Interscholastic Tournament this weekend in Columbus, Georgia. Muhammad Ali and Leon Spinks signed Tuesday for a rematch of their previous fight. The fight will be held September 15th in the Superdome. Ali says he'd like to end his professional boxing career in the Superdome.
We do the weather also because we need to know what's going to happen over the weekend also. We're glad to see it.
Over the Great Lakes, there's cold air coming down. In New England states, we have much rain, and down in Florida, we have showers. The sun rose at 5:18 and set at 6:14. The temperature for Saturday will be in the mid-70s. The lowest temperature should be in the 50s. If you have any plans which include sunshine, you have plenty of this weekend up until Sunday.
We'll have more news after a word from our sponsors.
Bologna has a first name, it's O-S-C-A-R. My bologna has a second name, it's M-A-Y-E-R. I like to eat it every day. If you ask me why, I say, because Oscar Mayer has a way of B-O-L chicken egg.
What kind of topics do you get into with your editorials?
Oh, boy, great. Good editorials. The beginning of the year, the kids were knocking, teachers giving too much homework. I had one editorial by a guy, and, well, I accepted it because it was his editorial, and it's what they think anyway. They usually do it about Georgia Washington, the teachers, the faculty, the lunchroom, the lunches, and so forth. Anything they feel like talking about in 2 paragraphs.
The new coeducation program has brought about many different opinions at Georgia Washington. Now the students feel they have a wider choice of activities to select from, and it may help to improve their relationship with each other. It is giving them a chance to compete against each other and to compare their capabilities.
What kind of reaction have you had from your students?
No, first semester they loved it. This semester we've been working on, they seem to enjoy it. It gives everyone a chance to get nervous and to come before the class and put out what they can do.
Thank you for watching.
Well, I'm sure you know by now today is Sunday, even though it's Wednesday. We're going to tell you how to harness the sun, or at least we're going to hope to give you a little bit more of an understanding about how solar energy works. I'm not. My guests are. Let me introduce you, first of all, to John Chambliss. He's a Montgomery architect, and he also prefers to be called Rock. And maybe because rocks collect the sun, I'm not sure. Also with us is Sandy Bird, and Sandy, I recently saw Sandy's picture and a little write-up on her in a national magazine because she was appointed recently to the Educational Activities Director's job for the Alabama Environmental Quality Association. So congratulations on that. And you could start us off, Sandy, with, I guess it's part of your job now to be very active in Sunday. You want to explain briefly what it is?
Well, the Alabama Environmental Quality Association is an organization that tries to educate the public to environmental problems and new innovations within the environment, so that when the time comes for people to make decisions, their own decisions, they will be informed and ready to make their decisions. So that we are involved in Sunday, and I do hope that in other areas of the country that the sun is participating, since it isn't here. But Sunday is an international celebration, and it's designed to educate the public to the use and the understanding of solar energy. Locally in Montgomery, we have an all-day exhibit at Eastdale Mall, which started at 10 this morning and will run until 8 this evening. And that will be exhibits of solar energy buildings and various solar energy equipment that you can purchase. This evening, and Mr. Chambliss will tell more about that later, we will have a slide presentation at Goodwin Hall at AUM in room 112. And that will educate you to what is solar energy, the very basics, and it's for everyone who is interested in learning more about solar energy.
Well, we want to find out a little bit about it now.
take on that bad shot. That's a bad boy.
Find a different reel to put it on. It was on the calendar in the House. We couldn't get it up. And I frankly think that was because of the efforts behind the scenes of the Alabama Power Company and their folks who were down here pretty much en masse. At that time, I saw Walter Johnson down here on the last day and saw some other folks down here on the last day. And I feel like they might have had something to do with the fact that the bill was not considered. But it is as meaningful as any piece of legislation that the governor is asking for, I guess excluding the educational budget. You know, we've talked for some period of time now about what we're going to do about public utilities in the state of Alabama. And everybody indicates that the real answer to the problem, the real solution to the problem, is to have a public service commission that is armed with the right kind of staff to govern and control what they're called upon by the legislature and what the governor and other people have called upon them to deal with. Unfortunately, we find, or I have found, that people don't always mean what they say publicly. But I've talked with the highest officials of some of the major utility companies in the state, and they indicate that they think it would be in the best interest of not only the utilities but the people of this state, so there's no opposition there.
Despite chilly winds, program organizers say they were pleased with the turnout. However, some did admit that membership in organizations such as the Montgomery Confederate Ladies Memorial Association is dropping. And it was to this point that the keynote speaker, retired Major General George Pickett, addressed his remarks.
A nation where 47% of our high school graduates do not even know that Columbus discovered America, their concepts of the Old South will be exactly what they see on that booth tube television. They're doing this for political expediency in many cases. Who's doing it? The same people that advised the President of the United States to pardon the draft dodgers and the deserters, the same people who forced him into unilateral disarmament so that if our boys have to go forward in the future and fight the Russians, they'll be outnumbered like the Army of Northern Virginia. But with one exception, Mr. Carter's anti-gun policy will be such that our boys will never have a chance to learn to shoot. And until we are finally ground down once more, the radical left cannot have its undisputed control of the United States.
Pickett closed out his speech with some advice for the Confederate ladies, saying the South will live only as long as they make it live. This is Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News reporting. In this modern society of ours, in which time is of the utmost importance, the switch from standard time to daylight savings time guarantees a certain amount of confusion. Well, be prepared. That switch will occur at 2 a.m. tomorrow. Now, there are two ways to accommodate for this change. You can either wait until 2 a.m., then push your clock ahead to 3 o'clock, or you can take the lazy man's approach and change your timepiece whenever you retire this evening. But if you think you've got worries with your own clocks, imagine the people who are responsible for changing the hundreds of commercial clocks, both mechanical and electronic, around the city. Or consider the case of the person or persons responsible for adjusting the nation's timekeeper at the U.S. Naval Observatory in Washington. This clock, if it could even be called that, is regulated by photographing positions of the stars, then comparing that data with time span recorded by atomic clocks. Sound confusing? Well, the Navy claims it works. Works so well, in fact, it would take an estimated 3 million years for it to deviate even 1 second. Now, that's how time is adjusted in the nation's capital, But how about Alabama's capital?
One of the most visible clocks in the area is this three-sided timepiece atop the state capitol. The man who coordinates the changing of the hour on this clock and all the others in the state office complex is the executive assistant of the finance department, Darrell Gordon. He says a person must be hired specifically for the occasion early this morning, and the big old hands will be turned ahead 1 hour. Gordon adds that it takes a separate custodian in each of the state buildings at least a day and a half to change all the clocks in each of the offices. That process began early this morning. One final reminder for those of you who can't remember whether to turn your clocks forward or backward, remember the old saying, fall backward and spring forward. So before you go to bed tonight, or if you'd like to wait until 2 a.m., just remember to turn your clocks forward 1 hour. This is Dave Rickey reporting for Composite.
The Johnson ruling said the evidence showed that whites on the university staff were denied promotions and contract renewals because of their race. The school was ordered to make semi-annual personnel reports to the court beginning November 15th. The university issued a statement on the matter.
We are surprised and greatly disappointed that the U.S. District Court has ruled that the Charles R. Craig case, ASU has engaged in discrimination against whites as a class in its personnel practices. This ruling is apparently based primarily upon the fact that the majority black administration, faculty, and staff at ASU does not mirror the majority white population from which such employees are hired and is therefore racially discriminatory.
Attorneys Howard Mandel and Dolores Boyd, who represented the white faculty members, said the case hits at problems of race bias for blacks and whites and will improve job securities for blacks at the school as well as whites.
Higher education in this country, unlike the elementary and high schools, has not really been desegregated. And while this was a case involving faculty, administration, and clerical employees of a predominantly black school being sued by whites, it is equally applicable where you have predominantly white schools where blacks have been discriminated against.
And I think black employees can gain quite a bit of solace from this opinion. I believe that it's a positive step for all employees, but in particular black employees who have suffered the same type of grievances that were recounted by the named plaintiffs in this lawsuit can know that there must be something done about it now.
One portion of the order called the school's president, Levi Watkins, an administrative tyrant who makes arbitrary decisions and then tries to make it look like other people made those decisions. Watkins' handling of the jobs on the campus was labeled, and I'm quoting now, a dictatorial grip over the internal life of the university. Under the heading of a final note, the court said the school, in its defense of racial discrimination, pleaded that other predominantly white schools discriminated against blacks. To that, the court said, the party guilty of discrimination can receive no solace or support from the fact that others have acted contrary to law.
Reliable sources close to the situation tell us that a rash of civil rights lawsuits are being planned against other public institutions in the state having few or no blacks on their faculties. We're also told by those same sources that the Johnson order will be used as a guideline in those future lawsuits. When they will be filed is not known at this time. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
To be with you this evening. We join with the rest of our family and friends.
Birthday, but I want to thank you and all those who are in attendance here tonight and all my family. And they went home this time, that is the Senate, so at the last minute, they didn't pass it. I don't want to call them back in the summertime because this is a tourist season, you know, and they scare tourists away, you know, from the campus. Second, all the philosophical concepts which we have been endowed with in this state, in which we believe, we have now here every member of the Congress, when he rises to speak, including the President of the United States, froth at the mouth about bureaucracy and the welfare mess, and froth at the mouth about the asinine income tax. That's what I called it in '68. They all call it the same thing now, what you called it. So I wouldn't be out of place. Now, they also already spreading around all over the state, you know, Well, how's Wallace's health? Well, I've told you about I've dealt with the legislature for 12 years, and ain't many folk can put up with that or stand it, but I want to tell them my health is just as good as theirs, for the simple reason that some of their thinking is being crippled in the head. I don't want to call them back in the summertime because this is the tourist season, you know, and they scare tourists away, you know, from the county. Otherwise, and it takes money out of the pockets of people, you know, who are involved. And this the tourist season just cannot have them down here unless it's something that's absolutely necessary.
Pharmacies have been selling Benylin over the counter along with an assortment of other cough medicines since 1975. But now pharmacists have begun receiving urgent notices from the FDA ordering the drug be put behind the counter with the other prescription drugs. The federal agency claims Benylin contains an antihistamine, diphenhydramine hydrochloride, which may cause severe drowsiness in a significant number of users. It'll remain up to the discretion of each individual pharmacist as to whether the price of the cough syrup will increase as a result of the FDA order. But other retailers, such as discount and grocery stores, will lose money. The FDA says they have to remove it from their shelves altogether and send it back to the manufacturer. This is Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News reporting.
Well, I think because so many different people, men, women, children, can play the game proficiently at their own level of play.
Does everybody have to hit a home run?
Definitely not. In fact, probably 95% of the teams do not hit any home runs during the course of a game. Only the super teams, like the ones in the tournament this weekend, are the ones that really hit all home runs.
On your team, how many can hit home runs?
Probably 2, maybe 3 occasionally.
On the Ken Sanders team, how many can hit home runs?
All 10 of them. Ken Sanders, when he recruits ball players, he looks for one that can hit a home run, and if he can't, they just don't use him.
How about the art of pitching in a slow pitch? Is the idea just to hang the ball up there so the guy can take a whack at it?
In most cases, most pitchers in slow pitch do just lob the ball to the plate so the batter can hit it. There are a few pitchers that will pitch to spots, pitch around the batter. If they know he likes one high and outside, they'll throw him low and inside, you know. But most pitchers just simply lob it in to let them hit and let the defense take it from there.
Pupils attending the Blue Springs Elementary School had just finished lunch and had returned to their classrooms when the storm warning was issued. One of the pupils was 7th grader Paul Nolan.
Well, we were supposed to get in the cloakroom and be quiet while she went out the room to see about the little ones.
Were you scared?
Yes, sir. First time, ought to be.
What time of day did you get the warning?
Well, it was about 30 minutes after we ate lunch, because we ate lunch because we didn't want the power to go off. We ate lunch early.
Okay, what procedure do you go through when you go in the cloakroom? What did you have to do? Get down on the floor?
And put your head between your legs and just be quiet.
How long did it seem that you had to stay in the cloakroom?
About 5 minutes, because it was all over by then.
And then school was over for the day?
Yes, sir.
The damage to the school was confined to one brick wall and part of the roof. As the storm passed through the area, it cut a path through a wooded section of the community, leaving its mark. It rearranged the farm of Danny Jackson, who lost a barn and 8,000 to 10,000 young chickens.
We have had got the barn gone and one chicken house completely gone and the other one ramshacked. And we lost the part of the house here, and a trailer house on the other side of the house is going to be pretty wrecked. And we lost 4 big pecan trees, and I've lost about 800 pounds of soybean seed in the barn. And we lost about 8,000 to 10,000 head of chickens, and we've saved about 7,000, I guess.
There have been no reports of injuries or an estimate of damage caused by the storm. Heavy rains and strong winds are hampering cleanup operations. This has been the picture pretty much of the day and is expected to continue until tomorrow. Rain, and still more rain. From the Blue Springs community in Covington County, George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
Power lines blown down gave police and utility crews the most trouble, as sparks on wet pavement caused explosions, adding to the outage list. The hard wind and low clouds blew trees, limbs, and other debris all over streets, into yards, and caused broadcasting stations such as WSFA TV power problems just as the 6 o'clock report was beginning. Commercial buildings had signs blown down and windows blown open, and passers-by often helped clear streets. A number of automobiles were damaged when trees were blown over on top of hoods. City public works crews had to use front-end loaders to clear streets, and utility crews, hampered like police with telephones out in offices, finally got out in force to begin the long process of restoring power to dark neighborhoods. Many Montgomery intersections had to be controlled by police because traffic lights were out. No tornado was reported or believed involved in Montgomery's evening storm, but the wind that did strike caused damage in a wide path across most of the metro area. Power company workers and police are expected to remain busy into the night just working to protect and restore services from the one storm, while keeping an ear to their two-way radios and an eye on the sky in case more hard rain heads this way. This is Dick Bird, WSFA TV News, reporting.
Twelve minutes after the hour now. As you know, it has been announced that Lou Wood wanted to move on to do other things, so here to report the weather for us this morning is our resident meteorologist, Bob Ryan. Welcome to the store, Bob.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have a new man to blame.
Well, I guess I have plenty of time to take the blame. I hope I do. I have a hunch that nature saw me coming. Everything from record low temperatures this morning to snow, blowing dust, severe thunderstorms, all on the 1st of May. The afternoon, here's what my forecast map looks like. Another blood
might become an empty monument. Drummond Forster, working with more than 9,000 independent insurance agents and brokers, helping insure the American way of life.
23 before the hour. The eastern states will be breezy and cooler today by 10 to 15 degrees. New York City hit a balmy 76 degrees yesterday. We'll reach only a cool 58 today. Boston will be 56 today after 75 yesterday. Cold front that's bringing the change is out to sea this morning, but brisk northwest winds following the front will carry snow flurries into upper New England today, and small craft advisories along the coast of Virginia. All the severe thunderstorm activity in the southeast has now been cleared out, with only a few showers left for southern Florida, perhaps for the East Gulf coastline. The Midwest will be cool, more snow showers in the upper lakes area. A traveler's advisory out this morning in eastern upper Michigan, where an inch of mid-April snow is falling. A big but weak rain and thunder shower pattern will be across the mid-plains. The southwestern states will all be warm and windy for today. Cooler weather with widespread valley rains and mountain snow showers continue spreading into the inland west from California and Oregon. The map of this afternoon's predicted temperature shows the west and the north well below normal for mid-April, the east cooler, the south not as warm. Daytona.
Pardon me, the station wagon is really an American invention. How come you bought a Volkswagen Dasher wagon?
Just look at it.
Is that all?
No, I put everything into it. People, dogs, stuff. But it still doesn't look like a truck. It doesn't drive like a truck either. It's my kind of elegance.
Still, there are so many station wagons. Why a Volkswagen Dasher wagon?
Because Mercedes doesn't sell one.
Oh.
Volkswagen does it again.
With a tree, you plant a little of yourself. Each ring is one more chapter in your life. As it marks each year, that comes and goes. That tree will grow stronger if you trust its life to Job's.
Job's Tree and Shrub, Fruit Tree, and Evergreen Spikes. The fertilizers you just pound in.
You can trust its life to Job's.
And indoors, Job's houseplant spikes, too. Job's, the easiest way to grow on Earth.
Today's financial advisor, Paula Nelson, is back with us this morning with an investment that's bound to catch your attention on a couple of different notes. There are some tax-saving possibilities. Paula?
Tom, if you want to start a spirited conversation, throw out the question of how to make money and at the same time keep from paying taxes. Well, there is one investment vehicle around, municipal bonds, that promises you both. A good rate of return plus the significant advantage of being tax exempt from federal and in some cases state taxes as well. In the past, they were almost exclusively of interest to the rich, but because inflation has pushed up all of our incomes and therefore our tax brackets, it's become popular with those in the average 36% tax bracket or those earning $24,000 or more per year. Here's how they work. Tax-free municipals, or munis as they're commonly known, are obligations issued by cities, towns, and states for the purposes of funding a wide variety of projects such as housing, schools, parks, and rapid transit systems. Most of these obligations are backed either by the issuer or the project itself. Since there are thousands of different bonds, most munis are rated by two independent rating services, Moody's and Standard & Poor's. The ratings they assign range anywhere from a AAA, which is the tops, all the way down to D for default. Yes, in fact, some do default, but according to industry figures, the percentage is well under 0.5%. In fact, those munis rated AAA are considered to have a degree of safety second only to U.S. government obligations. Munis are sold in increments of 1,000, with the most popular being $5,000. The aspect of munis that is often the most confusing is that they appear to have a low yield at first glance. For instance, if you're considering some high-grade munis yielding 6%, you may feel you could do much better buying corporate bonds